Welcome, I'm Dan the Man Muñoz, host of Movie Menu Interviews, where we interview filmmakers to discuss their films from idea to completion. On today's episode, we'll be interviewing filmmaker Felix Martiz. So I'd like to welcome Felix to the show. Thank you so much, Felix, for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, man. So the reason why we do this show is to basically give a background, discuss the process for future filmmakers who may be listening and watching, and talk about what worked and what didn't work and what you would change for your next project, Felix. Plus, any advice you'd like to give to our listeners. First things first, Felix, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Okay. Oh, sit back, everybody. This is a long tale. No, I'm kidding.
So four scores and 7 years ago.
4 scores 7 years ago. No, I was I was born in Southgate. Well, no, I'm lying. So I already started lying. Oh man, this is. I feel the pressure. I'm sorry. This is the first interaction I'm having since quarantine started. I should have talked to my cat. He wouldn't ask me the right questions. So I was born here in actually South LA. And moved over as a little child baby to a city called Southgate, which is where I've spent most of my life. Right now, as I speak, I'm residing in Southgate. So I'm very familiar with the area. I'm very familiar with the culture. I'm very familiar with, with what it is to grow up here. And I'm first generation Latino. My mom is Mexican. My dad is Ecuadorian. So I'm have tricultural roots. And I find that really fascinating, not to jump off my history, but I've just written something having to do with that, just because where I live is so far from what you think of Boyle Heights and all these different branches of Latinxhood. It's just, it's such a varied experience that we each have, and that we each need to tell our version of the story or the perspective that we know.
Right. Anyway, everyone knows Boyle Heights, but it's like these other communities that are within, LA that people are not aware of, at least in the global sense or even the mainstream sense of the word when it comes to Latinx communities.
Absolutely. So again, grew up here, went to high school. I was not the best student. I was, it was one of those things where I was always creative, inventive. I could remember being a little kid and hanging out with my cousin and my brother and trying to make little stories, which were, basically, I was trying to direct little movies that I didn't know about back in the day because we couldn't afford a camera. So it was just us doing it for funsies and not having the outlet to actually know what and how to do that for a living, or just to even know that existed, what we were doing. So when I got into high school, I really had no creative outlet. So I just became kind of this kid who was always getting in trouble and just didn't know how to put out there my energy in a positive way, in a way that would actually benefit me or help me or help my creativity grow. So I was a horrible musician. I couldn't draw to save my life. So it was just what am I going to do if if I can't tell stories? And the writing of the stories was one of those things where I would write, but it was just growing up, again, not with any writers or not with any kind of artistic members in the family, just is something, or not even artistic, just creative members in the family. Everybody's kind of blue collar and everybody's just about work. And it was just kind of trying to make my own way and find out how to kind of become a writer, how to become this creative person that I didn't know about.
So luckily, you would have to self-taught a lot for yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and here's where divine intervention happened. I was such a bad student in high school, such a bad student that my rap sheet couldn't fit any more things anymore. So they actually kicked me out of my high school and sent me to I went to Southgate High School. They sent me to Bell High School. And in Bell, I actually, it was really cool. They actually accepted me into a video production class. And that video production class was exactly what I needed, exactly what I needed in my life at the time, at the moment. And yeah, once you put me in that class, I opted not to come back to Southgate because I'm no, this is what I need. This is what I want to do. And, I was able to actually write little PSAs, write little stories, film them, on cameras and stuff like that, and get a real idea of what it was to make films, make videos, be a media content producer at the time, which
also
title didn't exist back then.
A space to also tell your story and get your voice out there and create.
Yes, to create, yes. To tell your story is so different, just again, because I came from a family that was just, again, more blue collar than anything else. Didn't really have any, so I didn't really have anybody to identify with as an older person for myself. You know, like I didn't have an older cousin, I didn't have an older uncle, I didn't have anybody who would I felt like connected to. And on top of that, I'm in Southgate. So this is the backside of that, or the other side of that coin, is that in Southgate, we didn't have kind of that pride that you do in Boyle Heights and East Los, you know, where that Chicano pride was like up and coming back then. And over here in Southgate, we were just so disconnected from that. Over here, it was just kind of people, in my opinion, it was just the Latinx community around here was just kind of trying to keep their head low and just work and not, you know, not ruffle any feathers, not make any waves. It was just very much trying to not really go out of the way to, like, you know, to disturb the peace, which F that now, you know, that's not even a question anymore. But back then when I was growing up, it was one of those things where it felt very much like, you know, there was a lot of fear, and I didn't know why. You know, by my parents, I could feel it in my parents, and you know, I'm not that far from, you know, South LA, so I get why they had such a fear of, like, you know, back when the riots and all that stuff happened, and like being so close to it, and just thinking like I could get mixed up in that, and like what would happen to me. So that was the reason, not knowing all of these factors and not knowing how the world functioned, or even and add to that the fact that I'm Ecuadorian and Mexican. So, you know, so I didn't have like the whole full Mexican pride and all this, you know, this and that. Like it was really interesting to the Mexican family. I was like more Ecuadorian. To the Ecuadorian family, I was definitely Mexican. You know, in the meantime, I'm trying to be American. You know, it's like, so you have like this freaking mess of a life where it's just like, I don't know how to be. I don't know who to identify with. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be or what stories I'm supposed to tell. So at first we all tell just these little, you know, crappy little stories and just anything that had a beginning, middle, and end. And it didn't come till, you know, much later in life where I was starting to, identify. And at the time I made a PSA, which like got KCT screening and did all like this big old fancy thing, which was, you know, was about teen suicide, just because that was a, you know, topic when growing up and teenagers and all that. So yeah, I guess I was telling like little personal stories, but nowhere to the point where I'm telling them now, or that I eventually would grow into starting to tell them. That happened much later in college, you know, when I was able to explore that.
Let's go into there. Well, like, so you took video production in high school at Bell. Yeah. And what made you want to go into college and pursue that? Or did you go into college wanting to pursue something else and you just happened to veer back into filmmaking? How did that whole start? So
it was, you know, I have a loving family, but not the most supportive in the sense of just like seeing that as a career option. And which makes sense because it really is a rough career path to take, especially in not knowing the terrain. You know, you're kind of just being thrown in the desert. It's like, hey, good luck. It's like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. So
as you keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up going to college, you know, community college here and there. I'm the oldest of 5. And one of those things where I'm like, I don't know that I could, you know, afford the fancy schools. Again, I didn't have the grades to back that up. I definitely had the creativity, but you know, we didn't know what schools to sign up for. We didn't know what schools to look at. We didn't know what schools to go to. And the high school at that, you know, they weren't helping us out. We're trying to figure that out. So it just became one of those things where like, okay, well, I just can't get lost in the mix. Luckily, I was in this program called the Inner City Filmmakers in high school. Somebody came from that program and scouted some of us. And through him, we were able to get like these PA jobs and like do different things in like the Walt Disney Studios. So I did a lot of PA jobs. I eventually went through the ranks and became even an assistant to an executive producer there, which was really enlightening. I learned a lot. But, and this, you know, this is my path. There's different stories. In my opinion, that's as far as I was going to get. You know, I was like this shy kid from Southgate, little chubby kid who just didn't have like the bravado or the confidence to like storm into a room and give his opinion. And, you know, on top of that, I'm brown and I'm the only brown freaking kid in this office. And it's like, yeah, this is going to be a rough path and one that might not, you know, bring what I think it's going to bring. And I've told this bit to so many people. I'm like, and then I met a PA there who, tall white dude who's like, really friendly and really cool. And he's like, hey man, I'm going to go to this producer's house this weekend. He's moving. And if we help him move, you know, we might get his ear and we might get his attention. Da, 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 da. Sold me on the whole bit. I'm like, let's do it. So I go, you know, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's called paying your dues, I guess, moving freaking other people's furniture around. So I'm like, I don't know where this is going to lead. Let's go. Let's do it. And we were there and we were helping and it was cool. And there was like, honestly, there must have been like, I would think 8 other PAs. And I'm like, wow, great. There's competition already. And during one of the breaks.
Welcome to the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Grab that chair. So what ends up happening is I end up talking to this guy and, you know, during a break. And I'm like, so what do you want to do, man? He's like, well, I write. He goes, I write. I want to direct. I'm like, right on, man. I go, that's kind of what I want to do. Like, how are you doing it? Like, how is it coming along? And he's like, well, you know what? I'm doing this PA thing because it's going to get me to that point. And I'm like, right on. Then I'm on the right path. I'm thinking. And I ask him, so how long have you been PAing? He's like, 6 years. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, 6 years. I'm like, 6 years? And in 6 years, you haven't been able to, like, what have you done in these 6 years? He's like, dude, like, PAing takes a lot, da, 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 da. And he's right, and I get it. And that's the moment I decided to never, ever PA again for a studio. I'm like, I can't do this. I go, if this guy with this tall, white, good-looking dude can't freaking make it as a PA, like, there's no way I'm going to do it. And not even, you know, because that's what's going to get me into the door. Forget the talent. I might feel like I have more talent than him, but who's going to know? So I stopped PAing. I thought I was going to go to college for that. And then I just ended up going to community college and just falling right back into those bad habits of just partying and not doing anything meaningful with my life for a while until I got real serious about it again. Then I went to the only school I wanted to go to was, sounds weird, because through that program, through the inner city filmmaker thing, there was a whole thing where we were brought into it for a semester at USC. And at USC, we were taking classes, we were listening to all these people. I was probably one of the 2, you know, POCs in there, and it always felt off and odd and weird. And I just didn't like it. I didn't feel like that was not my tribe. That was not my place. I didn't feel right. So after leaving there is when, you know, I did the whole freaking East LA College, Cypress College. I don't know how many community colleges I went to until I eventually landed at Cal State Long Beach, which they had a film program that I've always wanted to be a part of because, I don't know, just because I heard that Steven Spielberg went there and Steven Spielberg was like, you know, he's like a big name. And I'm like, I want to go where he goes. And it seems more accessible than anything else. It seems like there's more people of color. It seems like I could find my little niche there. And it happened. It really did happen that way. And there I was able to work with Rader Johnson, who's what is it? An Academy Award nominated writer. He did My Life as a Dog, and he took me under his wing, and he really showed me the ropes on how to you know, write and just everything to do as a writer. I would call him a mentor, but we were together for a year only. It's like, you know, and we don't keep in touch that much, so it's not that much of a mentorship. But for that year that I did have his ear and that he was helping me, it was just an incredible experience, and it really, you know, informed me as a storyteller. So all that was needed after that was just like, okay, now what's your point of view? What's your voice? And then that's when I started taking writing really serious and starting to figure out what I was trying to say and finding the themes within oneself, you know, within one's own writing and really seeing what I'm focused on and really what matters. Some of my favorite movies are all about, you know, on the waterfront, on, you know, Do the Right Thing. You know, all these movies that are dealing with all these social themes and you know, and personal struggles, and that's what I lean toward, what fascinates me as a writer, and
that's what gravitates you to the stories you tell, or
not so much
absolutely. Political, but at least somewhat.
Yeah,
well, I guess somewhat political. Yeah,
it's political. It's about, you know, the social construct of just like what it is. You know, to see what a change one person can make, and it's yeah. Those movies have always fascinated me. I've always been drawn to anything having to do with, like, again, the human condition, you know, Bicycle Thieves, you know, those type of films that are just really dealing with what it is.
Now, what was it about filmmaking though? Because like you had mentioned that your family weren't the most supportive, but once you do something you love, I know you want to go after, but what made you really like, you know what, I'm going to do filmmaking. I know it's going to be a hard life, but I'm still going to do it.
In all sincerity, the fact that this is going to sound so corny. I'm at my best when I'm making films, and I do believe that as a troubled teenager, it was film, or it was making films or creating little shorts that got me out of that life that really I was heading down the wrong path. And then after that in college, it's again, being a screw up and doing this again, losing your way. And it was only finding my way back to the film of just like, that's when I took it serious, right before Cal State Long Beach. It was like, no, this is what I mean to do. This is what I need to do. This is the platform where I could tell a story and have people see my perspective. Because I think that's at the time when I was realizing that we each have a very unique, very specific perspective. And what a better way to share that with everybody than, with a film. And we talked about it earlier before the show about, just the power of film and how much of an impact it has. And, oh, that's right. You know what? I know exactly why.
Do tell. I want to know.
So, oh man, I skipped through this part. I don't know why I skipped through this. I always tell this part, but
it's all good.
So in the fourth grade, my teacher, it was a rainy day. We didn't have recess. My teacher brings in his old projector, and he has like an actual reel. I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he puts on The Red Balloon. And this movie, what was I, 9, 8? Watching this movie, a French film, which doesn't matter.
It's about the little boy who loses his red balloon, right? And you follow the red balloon going around?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So this film just blew me away. This film is about, this inanimate object that you are introduced to at the beginning as, just this little red balloon. You think the main protagonist is a kid, which he is, but the fact that you end up caring so much for that balloon by the end of the story, that really messed with my mind, man. I was like, why? That balloon was just a balloon. Why did I don't remember anymore if I was crying. I don't know if I was that attuned with my feelings, but it definitely left an impact on me where I'm like, oh my God, shattered at the end of this thing. I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody, but if you haven't seen The Red Balloon, you need to watch The Red Balloon, because that is, in all sincerity, that's what kind of led me to think like, there's magic happening here. Like, that's the power of film. And I knew that at that time, seeing that, let me rephrase it. I felt that seeing that movie. I felt like, whoa, this is powerful. I can't believe I'm feeling this for this balloon, and I can't believe how they did that. And slowly after that, I realized that it's the power of a film. That's what you could do, and there's somebody behind that, and it's an actual construct. It's not magic. It's just there's many talented people behind that, construction of that film, of that feeling that you want to. Yeah, so I'm like, if I could elicit any kind of emotion from people in that way, that would make me feel joy. That would make me feel happy. Like being able to tell something that impacts somebody to that day. God, I saw that movie how many years ago? Like thinking about it now.
Exactly. It's stuck with you.
Yeah. So and again, it stuck with me, and growing up in the households I grew up, it was nothing but like what Chuck Norris and Stallone and Schwarzenegger movies. It's like all action movies. So it's like you see the downside of that. You're like, oh man, this is crap. But at the same time, it's entertaining somebody for a reason and a purpose. So the honestly, the sheer power of filmmaking and of being able to share important stories and connect with people in a way that you wouldn't be able to do it any other way. I think that's key to what fascinates me about film and what draws me to film. It's that fact that I grew up in Southgate, and luckily by age 16, I knew what Paris looked like. I knew what what Italy looked like. I knew what all of these different places that I had never been to looked like because of film. It was like my little time machine.
It was your home away from home.
Yeah.
So when you got started with filmmaking back in Cal State Long Beach, fast forward a little bit, you had talked about not your mentor, but your professor who was teaching you writing. Now, was writing what you wanted to do originally, or was writing, directing always the combo together that you wanted to get into filmmaking with?
I think the writing of it has always fascinated me because it's... So here's a double-edged sword with that. It's like, Yeah, it's funny that you asked me that because now it's just coming into play why I do what I do. So yeah, as a writer,
welcome to Movie Menu Therapy interviews. So we're unwinding.
Well, no, well, I'm saying that is because as a director, I figured like it'd be so hard. I remember the first time I actually people trusted me to direct something, a short film at Cal State Long Beach. You know, this little niche of filmmakers where we just clicked and all that, and there was a lot of talented people within that group, and they all kind of thought I should direct it and brought me in as a director. And I just thought like, that is so, I remember literally the first day of shooting, like just looking up at the set. We were, I don't know, somewhere in Orange County, looking off the roof and looking at the DP set up the shot, like the gaffers and everything happening and the actors rehearsing. And I just thought to myself like, my God, this is awesome. Like I am being entrusted with this. Like they see something in me that is good. That it's like, you know, because you always have that kind of doubt, that self-doubt, especially in like the first projects. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? So honestly, the directing for me was like something that I love to do, but that I thought it would really be insanely hard for me to actually be able to pull off. Now, that being said, Sidney Lumet's book, you know, on filmmaking, I think it's called. But I read a lot of Sidney Lumet, and I love his movies, and he breaks down directing in a way that was really approachable for me at that time. And even now, I love Sidney Lumet as a director, but in that book, he's kind of explaining to you the construct of it, like the mechanism of it. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is what differentiates the director from the writer, because they're both trying to tell the same story, but this person is trying to elicit this in a different way. And as a writer, I'm just alone at home telling or writing this story and trying to come up with a good way, and you know, to kind of connect with other people just based on with my experience and what I have. Because, you know, as a writer, I don't share my drafts until like I'm like really ready to, you know. So I'm rewriting. I'm like super critical with my stuff in a way that that I don't mind it, because I know a lot of people like, well, you need to share that with other people and stuff like that. Absolutely. And I do at when I'm ready for that point. But I won't give anybody like my first draft, because I'm like, that was like kind of just like the vomit script, you know. It's like I just needed to get it out. Now let's really go back and dig in and see what I'm trying to see, or see where I need to really focus on. But the story,
shaping the story.
Exactly. So I'm like, I don't feel like I should let anybody read that, because then anybody's input at that point won't be my own. And I'm like, and it's my story. It's like I'm trying to tell you the story, you know, that is personal to me. And to have anybody else at that early stage, like trying to put in ideas or trying to tell me things, it's like I don't know that I would like to feel what that is like to share it with other people. It's like, well, you know, it's not really my story anymore. But again, that's at the beginning stages. I do believe that it's a collaborative medium, and to a degree, because I'm writer director, so I can't say that I completely. But you know, I have been lucky enough to direct other people's scripts, and I have felt that collaboration and seeing the good that comes out of it, and how fun it is to really shape a story and to really have two different people really going for it. You know, I've been lucky with my producers. In the past, like Zio would never let me just like will never let me just slide on anything. She's really critical, and I love that about her, and I love like that about like the collaborators I work with. It's like they kind of keep pushing me and making sure it's exactly what I'm trying to tell and what I need to tell. So let's fast forward again, or rewind back to Long Beach. You talked about your first project that you were trusted in directing. What did you learn your first time directing, and what in that situation was there something that you carry with you always now moving forward from your first project that you directed to what you direct now? Did you learn something from that first project that carries with you throughout your film? I would say the relationships that I build, and by that I mean the relationships, you know, every film has its own little life. So I think, or its own lifespan, and I think the way I treated everybody on that set, from actors to crew, was one of those things that I still carry with me, that I just like it. Again, you know, coming off of the collaboration thing, is just everybody has a voice in this project, and everybody could have that freedom to really talk about what would make the story better. And if we're all on the same page, it's that much better for everybody, for the project itself. So, you know, at that age, or during that project, it was the first project. So it was nice to have that as a support. And I thought that's why I was doing it. I thought I was just like, you know, I just want to make sure that I'm doing this right. And now that I see, dozens of projects later, dozens of films later, it's like, oh, cool. I still have that sense of, no, I like that sense of people having an opinion or looking at it from their perspective or exploring this other side of it. Because I think that can only help the film. So not just getting stuck on what I see the film as at that moment, and really being open to listening to others. I think that's the one thing that I carry with me the most. That I've grown as a director. Of course, every project, again, you're going for my first project. It was just like, I like it. I see it now, and I'm like, ugh. Like I really don't like. I say I like the experience. I see the movie, and I'm like, so that's cool. but it wasn't,
Well, talk about what's changed then from your first time, the first film you made to what you made now. What makes you cringe watching that then that you wouldn't do now?
It was ham. It was not only like hammy, but it was just like, it was so derivative of other films. Like I see his styles, and I'm not talking about like big popular styles, but like, I don't know, like Abel Ferrara, like all these weird little filmmakers, like at the time, that I grew up with, like the mid late 90s, like indie directors, when film was really indie. And, I grew up watching these guys and like just trying to emulate what they were doing. And it was just like, I could feel it. I'm like, that's not me, Now,
that's would you say style. Then that because in your first film you didn't have your aesthetic, now that you have your aesthetic, watching what you did back not being your own voice kind of is cringy?
Wait, say that again? What was the last part you cut off?
Oh, the fact that you now have an aesthetic, watching what you did in the past that didn't have a voice or an aesthetic so much to what you have now. Was that what made it cringeworthy?
Absolutely. Yeah, because of the fact, I did a couple projects after that one where I look back, and that was like my my ode to Blood Simple, as I say. It's like one of those movies that I like. Oh, I was like, huge fan of Coen Brothers, so it was like a little neo-noir film that I did, which I really like, and it's really cool visually, and everything that went into making it. That was like my first time actually on a set. Like we rented a set and everything, but even that, so that film doesn't make me cringe as much, but that's because I wrote it, I think. So I'm like, like this first one that I directed, I didn't write, so it was just like, what is this movie? Like it's a little bit, again, it's like the things you make fun of people for doing. Like, it was about this mobster and his son, and it was like you're trying to like get a Shakespearean story going in like freaking 12 minutes with like no budget, and like just the stage actors, because you didn't know the difference between stage actors and film actors, and I don't know. There was just a lot of things in that film I look back at and be like, well, I don't look back because I haven't seen it in a long time, but I know last time I saw it, I was just like, cool. Let's not watch that anymore. So, but there are a couple of things though that I do like, and it's more to do with performances. Like there's parts of performances of the actors that I really like just little moments. But that's it. I don't know what else to discuss about that one. Yeah, but
well,
again,
let's go ahead and move on to a film that you filmed last year or a year ago. Or maybe over a year ago. Let's discuss your short film Gone. Go ahead and give a synopsis about the film Gone.
Oh man, I didn't have my synopsis ready, but off the cuff, it's basically Gone is let me see. So it's a short film about a child who gets taken into custody, and there are rumors that there's somebody in this detention center that has the power to make people disappear, and we start to realize that, just in the short time that we have, that this person, which is a child that's making the people disappear, is actually making the children of the guards disappear. So it's supposed to be kind of a recanting of just like, well, so that's the idea behind the short film, right? So it's a horror, it's a short little horror. You
heard about Smith? Kid went missing.
Yeah, I heard one of these kept repeating your name over and over and over again before she vanished.
Yeah, if I told you anymore, I'd literally tell you the whole film. It's like 6 minutes. It's the shortest thing I've ever done, which I'm really proud of, because I've always liked a bit.
Okay, I've seen it, and I gotta say, Felix, it looks fucking beautiful, and I'm surprised the quality, because it looks like you're in a fucking detainee facility.
Yeah. My buddy Mike, my producer, he really went out of his, just hit a home run on that one. He was able to get the locations. He was able to make the cage look like a cage, and honestly, with the very
those
very
blankets, those fire blankets that that we see in the news that the kids are using. Yeah, I was just like, oh wow, it was too real and too eerie, and then the whole horror aspect of it too. I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah, no, again, it was, and Michael, my producer, was with me from inception. It was one of those things where spit out an idea, and he's like, how about this? And it's like, yeah, how about that, this and that, and cool. Then I went off, wrote it, and then he came back, and he's like, let's shoot it, man. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. If we could do it, let's do it. And again,
so real quick though, you're jumping over the spitfiring the ideas. Really, let's break it down. How did you come up with the concept of this film? Where did the whole idea of this girl having this power come from?
So it had to do with, again, it was filmed maybe a little bit over 2 years ago. 3 years, 2 years ago. By this point in my filmmaking career, I've been doing nothing and focusing on just Latinx films or the experience of the migrants or anything having to do with what's happening in the world and the and all the abuses that we're in these last 4 years, but before that even, so it had to do with them, the detention centers having the kids being taken away, and me talking to Michael about it and saying like, how about if we, that's kind of the story I want to focus on next. And Michael's thing. And if you've seen my films in the past, like Kiko, which was the one before that, it's very grounded in reality. It's very grounded in, deportations and nothing super fantastical is happening other than just the grit of reality and the horror of reality. So, Michael is one of those people who is just always thinking about like making something bigger and like really having it kind of carry through in a specific genre. And so his reaction was like, yeah, and you should make it scary. And when he said that kind of clicked the idea that it is a horror for these kids. It is a horror, to get separated from their mothers. This was probably right after, it literally was right when the picture of that little girl crying, letting her mom go was circulating, and having these images of what a horror that must have been for these children. And thinking, okay, well, let's talk. You're right. Like the horror aspect is the way to go with this, because it is, that is what we kind of want to elicit from the audience, is like, this is what is happening right now in reality. In reality, is as horrific as what you're seeing in this movie that this child could do, which is just disappear. A kid from his parent. It's like, oh yeah, they're gone. You might never see them again. Now that was the inception of the idea to get that out. Now, when you put it, granted, again, it's just the short, but the amount of thought that was put behind it. And again, talking to Michael and talking to Xiomara, who, is just, again, bounce ideas and really hone in on what you're trying to say, or what the importance of that, not only that is, but what else can we associate with this story, with this idea. And it had to do with accountability. Accountability, because the people that are getting punished in the movie are the actual guards, because all of their kids are getting disappeared. So it has to do with accountability of, if everybody would just stand up and say, no, enough of this. This is not the way to go. You feel like, okay, things might change, but people just kind of, turn a blind eye, or just don't care, or just don't, are part of the problem. So knowing that really allowed us to really embrace that idea of making this a little horror short and talking about accountability. So that's where the idea came from, and then the script was written fairly fast, and even faster came Michael making the production happen, because it was just a matter of weeks before he's like, all right, let's do this, let's go. I got this, I got that, I got this.
How long was it to write the script, the shooting script, and principal photography and post-production? How long was that process to make this
So-
short film?
It was really cool. I think the longest thing was probably the sound. So the script took, I would say, a matter of weeks. And I don't think it was more than 2 weeks. The casting, I had worked with, like, as I was writing it. So I don't, this doesn't really happen much to me. Actually, that's a lie, because I usually have like a lot of cast members kind of reprise like parts in my movies.
Yeah,
But
go
instead of
into
having
casting.
a-
I want to know. I want to know where you found all the kids and the guards. We're going.
So the kids, the main kid, I worked with her in a film titled Mia.
I remember Mia. Another
remember
good
Mia?
film. Yeah.
I love that. That's probably one of my favorite films that I've made. There was a lot. I adore that film. Anyway, the little girl from that. In that movie, there's two kids. The smallest, the youngest one, the one that plays Mia. I had her in my mind when I was writing the Gone. And I'm like, this should be perfect. I'm like, I haven't talked to her like in 4 years. I don't know if she's still acting. I don't know what's happening. You know, a grown-ass man shouldn't keep in touch with a child. So I'm like, I don't know what's, I got to approach her parents and see, you know, how they're doing and how, if they're still, if she still has the acting bug. And luckily I reached out to her right away, right at the beginning of me writing this thing. Cause I'm like, I really want to see if this is going to be a possibility to cast her. Then it's going to be really cool to actually be able to just, think of her in the rewrites and just think of her face and what she has, you know, as an actor, because she's a really good actor. So, yeah, the parents said, yeah, they'd love to work with us and they'd love to work with me. They absolute fans of the work we've done in the past. And they were just, I have the tendency to find really amazing people that really, really care about projects. And this is a topic for a different conversation, but I've managed to do all these films and create like these little community of film groups without much of a budget or much money. So all we have is kind of our grit and our heart, and it becomes one of those things where it's like, okay, this is good. And I think a lot of the times, like when this lady just said, yeah, we'll go back and work with you. Like for no money, like no money. Like, what? So it's like, it shows the amount of heart and the amount of care that people A, have for something that you're doing, and B, for, in essence, for me and the quality of projects and films that I want to make, that I care so much for it, that it's, you know, other people feel it and other people tend to gravitate toward it and be right there with you as far as the caring goes. So anyways, I don't know how I went off on that tangent. So the little girl,
It's good. It's good though.
Little girl was cast that way. The guards, one of them was Michael's friend. He knows a lot of actors. I know a lot of actors. The other guard was the guy from Any Other Day, who I promised to be in a movie.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he was there, and I really like him. And again, friends who just will say yes to when I call them. And Alexa, the lady at the end, was just everybody else was just reached out and said, hey, do you mind doing this? Alexa was just lucky. I had written something with her in the past. And I just said, man, if I could get a German in this film, somebody with a German accent, just to really nail it home, how evil I think this administration is being towards the kids right now, it'd be amazing. And then I called her and I'm like, hey, do you know Spanish? She's like, yeah, claro que sí. I'm like, oh, and I was like, you speak Spanish. Yeah, dude, double score. I'm like, can you be in my film? She's like, oh, wait, what? So then it was just a matter of kind of getting her in the film. Cause again, she's a good actor. She's a good actor, but she's like, I'm a writer, dude, not an actor. I'm like, yeah, no, you're good. She's a writer director. I'm like, no, you're an actor. You're definitely an actor because I need you as an actor. So that's how she came on board. And then everybody else were just, again, friends or acquaintances or people that we reached out to on a personal basis. We didn't do a casting session. We just reached out. We saw faces. Yeah. That's how that was cast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that process didn't take very long, again, because it was all people that we reached out to and that said yes. So if they would have said no, I'm sure if she would have said no, the little girl, it would have been a lot harder for us to actually, follow through with the film. It would be like, we have to cast this right. We have to cast it right, because the casting is like everything, when you have like no budget and just this idea that it's her and it needs to be her. And she came on board. So really, really happy how it all worked out. And
so how long was the shoot? Yeah.
Filming was just a day.
Really?
Yeah, we did pickups. We did pickups another week after, like another day, but it wasn't even a day. It was a couple hours. But again, man, yeah, it was just knowing what we wanted. I went in with my DP Matt, and we kind of envisioned what we needed to shoot and how we needed to shoot it. So, again, having talked to him, having worked with him in the past.
Was that to do with post-production? I mean, I'm sorry, pre-production? Like you had everything planned out way ahead of time?
We did. We had conversations. We talked about that. Yeah, whenever, the one thing I've learned in my many years of making film is when you don't have money, you have time. So it's like the time is the one thing that you will always have and that you'll be able to just put as much attention to it that you need, because that will ultimately be the trade-off for not having the money. So, hey, my headphones went off. I'm just letting you know.
Where? But it's okay.
Oh, you saw it? Okay, good. So yeah, with my DP, we had a lot of conversations. And again, I've worked with him in the past. He's the same DP from Any Other Day and Kiko. And
shout out.
Shout out. Yeah, shout out. And he's really cool and he's really fast and he really like gets me. He gets me. So it's like we have this symbiotic relationship. It's like, cool. We can move on faster. Michael's wife, oh my God, God bless her. She's the one that reached out to her family for all those extra kids. Yeah. I don't know how many of them are related, but a lot of them were related. But yeah, man, she just did such an amazing job with getting us every kid that if it wasn't for her, her name is Laura. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be able to make a film. Because I'm like, well, we can't just show a kid like one small kid. It's a different story. And she came through. And again, these are like things that I'm like, Laura's Michael's wife. So it's like, bro, man, how about if she doesn't get these kids? What's gonna happen? You have all these things like just worrying about until you're actually there and it's actually happening. Like, it's happening. Yes, it's happening. It's meant to be. So, there's that whole idea of just also just. It really is like a little miracle when things come together, because you're like, God, this could fall apart so easy, or just not be what you thought it would be, or what you needed it to be. And shout out to Michael's kid. Michael's kid is the one that's being walked in, the first one. And that other kid, the one we focus on, the one the movie opens on, he was just brought in with that group of kids. And now I'm like, okay, let's see who can act here. Like literally lined up on the wall. I'm like going one by one. Can you say this line? If I say do this, do that, and how would you interpret that? And honestly, the kids were just like trying, and he did such a good job. I'm like, dude, you are a natural. And we did that because we did that intro. We did that. I'm gonna say 11 times, minimum 11 times. I'm pretty sure it was more. But those 11 times, right? Asked this kid who's never acted in his life before and who was trying it for the first time to do it and give me what I needed. And yeah, when you have it, you have it. And he had it. I thought he did really good. And and it's the opening shot of the film. I'm like, what a way to go. If this doesn't work out. So yeah, the production was that a day and a half, and I think 6 hours with those kids maximum, because I don't think we could. Yeah. They were all very loud during like middle of the takes, so it was just chaotic. Yeah, group of kids in one room. That's crazy. Post production was pretty fast. We were able to cut it fast. Yeah, we were able to cut it really fast. And then Michael had the idea for like the little effect thing that took us a little while. I'm gonna say post production was definitely the thing that where we spend most of the time. And even after the whole film was done and colored. I asked my buddy, who has been amazing and just giving me so much of his time helping me color my films. He actually, and I will credit this to Zio. Zio's like, you know what you need to do? She's like, you need to have like a psych ward color at this moment and this time, and it's like you need to have like that tint, that psych tint, like one that you see like in horror films, and it's like, oh man, that would have been so great if we would have like thought of that before and actually did the thing like it. But she's like, can you just do it in color? I'm like, and I'll ask. And we asked, and yeah, dude, he did it. And that's how we got the look of the film. And it was like that was one of those things where it's like, it's funny again, because you think so much about what you want for the project that you still have little things like that get away. But luckily that was caught right before we said done, It was like,
totally.
how could you think about it any other way? And it's so weird when you think about it, because I'm like, I would watch the film a million times before that, and I'm like, no, that's fine, that looks good, that looks good. But just what that, again, is like dealing with color and dealing with the aesthetics of the film and like how that affects the psyche of what you're watching and how you interpret those visuals in an emotional stance. That's why it's important, you know, to those little details like color. But that took a while, and then the music and sound, you know, were little pieces that my buddy Jesus, who's always working. Another one of my saints who just, again, I have like a lot of people that I'm sure hate me, but love me enough to like help me every time I ask them to. But they're like, oh God, this is gonna be the last project I was gonna do this on for you. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna make it one day, and when I do, you're
gonna be loyal.
But yeah, so that was the whole process with that. Now, the post production took such it took like, I would say like probably all in all 2 months before we like said it's done. And then the idea for that show was just to put it online, just to put it on YouTube and let it live there. And then a couple of people saw it and they're like, oh no, this should be in a festival. It should totally be in festivals. So then we went the festival route, and then by that time we had missed the first round of festivals, so we had to wait till like fall, and then we started to screen at festivals, and that was last fall, which was the last screen that was I think the official Latino festival, the Danny Hastings Festival out there in Palm Springs. And then we were gonna do a couple more this year that just didn't pan out.
Boo! This year.
I will say this though, you know what's really cool? This has never happened to me, so I'm totally gonna. So don't think of it as me like being like, yeah, you know, I'm so cool. It really was one of those moments where it was just like, oh, that was awesome that just happened. I was at a bar with my buddy Caesar, and we were just talking about projects, and we were just drinking. It was one of these nights, like, and back when you could go to bars and just have a beer. Remember those days?
Those were the good old days.
Good old days. They had no worries, no pain in the world. People huddled up, people smoking. Like, my lungs, nothing's gonna go wrong with this. So we were talking about projects, and then another guy comes outside and he's like, hey, you guys mind if I smoke right next to me? Oh, go ahead, man, just hang out. And he was talking, and this guy, I wish I could remember his name. He actually Instagrammed me, but he lived right across the street from the bar. It was amazing. He's like, yeah, I'm here all the time. I'm like, that's perfect setup. And he's like, yeah, what do you guys do? And we talked about like, oh, film this and that. And he goes, well, what kind of films you make? He goes, my ex was an actress, and you know, we were in this film festival at the Official Latino, and da. And I'm like, what was your film? And I knew his film. And he goes, well, what film did you have there? And I said, a movie called Gone. He's like, Gone. About a little girl in the detention center. He's like, oh my God, that was your film? He goes, dude. He gave me that whole like, I can't believe you made that. He was
That's awesome, man. That's fucking cool.
He's a paralegal for he worked for like an immigrant like type of thing, having to do with his office, like trying to get, you know, people papers and documents in order. And he's like, so he was like doubly excited. He's like, yeah, from where I come from, he goes, when I saw that movie, he goes, I don't know if you were there at the audience, but like one guy was like, fuck yeah, at the end. He goes, that was me. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. So that's the first time that I've met a random stranger that has seen one of my films. That made me feel like,
no, not even just saw one of your films, was a fan of your film.
Bought me a beer.
He bought you a beer, dude.
And that's why I make movies. Just trying to get free booze. That's all.
Free booze. And validation from strangers.
Yeah. Forget my joke. I was a setup for a joke. Yeah, I don't care about fame, women, or stories. I just want free beer. That was cool, dude. That was cool, and yeah, that was really cool to have that happen to me before the world ended in March.
But also nothing before the world ended. Now I know I didn't put this in the notes, but I kind of want to go back and talk about Mia. Talk about that process. I saw that at the Latino Festival. Or
oh yeah, when they had their screening here
in Highland Park.
In Highland Park. Yeah, dude. Mia again. Mia is like one of my favorite stories. It was. That was a process.
Give everyone a synopsis of what Mia is about.
Okay. The synopsis
and
about
then,
Mia.
And then
Mia's,
we'll break it.
Sure. Mia's a retelling of, totally. Mia's a retelling of La Llorona, in a way that we were trying to approach that kind of that figure with real compassion and real. We just wanted to make it real, like really figure out what the psychology of this woman would be, and because there's people that murder their kids and drown their children and this and that, and we were just under the influence of just trying to like, what would make a woman do this? So we actually wrote a longer. So sorry, I know you asked me to tell you what the story was. So it's a retelling of La Llorona. It's about a woman who's struggling with her goal. She's being haunted by this heinous act that she committed, and is living in her own personal hell because she's in this kind of circular motion, just kind of going through the motions of not being able to break free from the horrific thing that she did, and she's like in her own hell. She's kind of just she's kind of obviously regretting what she did,
like,
but at the same time,
yeah, she's like stuck almost in limbo, right? Or like in a.
Honestly, I would look at it because like the film has like kind of like the circular way, right? Where it's like at the end, like, it's an ending, but you're like, but at the same time, it's like how many times has it ended like that for her in her head, and then it just kind of keeps retelling itself, and she keeps reliving it. So from that approach, it was that again, it was that for me, it's not limbo, it's literally hell.
Right,
it's like
right.
being there and just not being able to let go of that, what you did, which you thought was going to be a good thing. The original script for that was a lot longer, and it was a lot there was more sense of just having the story about her being abused and her daughter being abused and her not being able to save her daughter from the abuse that was happening to her from her husband. So that's what commits her to kind of allow her daughter to be set free, because she can't have her daughter just be abused like this in this manner. So the way to set her free, and the only way that she could set her free, is to let her pass on and not have to live this tortured life, which is where the original script was. It actually included an actor, a male lead. And then once we took him out, this was a senior thesis film for my master's program. So we were focusing on making it short, and we were focusing on just really focusing on her story and not trying to bring in a male actor. The whole film is, there's four characters, and they're all women. It's an all-women cast. And on top of that, Zio, the producer, was like really dead on. Like, I should have given her co-writer credit, like, because we were just every night bouncing the story off of each other, like what mattered, what was important, where this character is at. We did the whole process. That one we were super careful with, because again, you're dealing with like these topics that were personal in a sense of you don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to talk down or talk like what this person would go through. It's just kind of the process of telling the story and allowing itself to kind of live and show a perspective of what you feel like this experience would be like for this person. Granted, it's not a true story, but again, it happens. It happens in life where people are at that point that they've suffered and they really don't see another way out, So taking all of that in, we were really careful and really, really cared for it, and in every step of the way, being from script to casting. The casting we had, like the actress that we casted as the mom, we made her come in 3 times, I think. 3 times free. Like, I saw it. Like, the first time, I'm like, that's her. Zio was like, no, dude. Let's keep looking. And I'm like, that's her. I know it's her. And she's like, I didn't see what you're seeing. We made her come in again, and she came in again. And Zio's like, okay, I kind of see what you're seeing now. So the 3rd time, I was filming her. I told the actor during an audition, again, we were having a lot of auditions, a lot of actors. We saw a lot of actors. And I tell her, listen, I'm trying to convince you to get you this job. I want you for this role, and I know you have exactly what we need. So I'm going to ask you to give me 100 on this one. Like, let's pretend we're actually going to do this take right now. Like, give me that. Because, you know, actors are, you know, it's an audition. It's, you know, you don't have to go the whole way. You know, you're kind of reserved and you kind of want to do that. And the second time you give a little more, but the other time I'm like, I'm just making sure she knows this is the last chance I'm going to have to show this to her. And if we don't see it, if we're not both on the same page, then it's going to have to go somewhere else. I didn't tell her that, but that's the idea behind it. So she went for
I'm sure she got the hint also.
Yeah, exactly. And you've seen the film, so it's like the film is like she carries a lot of emotion, and again, this is a woman who's being haunted, you know, who's being haunted by, and every second of the film that we see is like there's not one moment that she's not being tortured or that she doesn't seem tortured, look tortured. So it was able to also have that idea that we saw that she'd be able to carry that throughout the film. So she got it. So when she got the part, we're just like awesome. Then we casted everybody else through the different casting sessions. And then that casting was a long time on that one, just because, again, we wanted to get it right and we wanted to make sure we had the right people for it. We had the right actors for it. We had the right kids for it. That was an interesting one. Manny was on that. Manny was on that, I think.
Yeah, he did the costumes.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where I was like, I love that because Manny, sorry, this is veering off. But Manny's one of those people that was with me in Cal State Long Beach, you know. So we worked on those films over there, and he's been part of my growth, and he's been part of my productions, you know, from like the smallest to the biggest. And it's really awesome to have people that you're still kind of arm in arm with, like kind of going through this little path, you know, with different projects. So, but anyway, yeah, shout out Manny there. So so after that we actually did a Kickstarter. We did crowdfunding for that project, raised enough money. We went, I can't tell you where, it was somewhere out there up north. We found like a location that they rented us the cabin, and then we set up the cabin,
which they fucking look awesome, by the way, and scary as fuck.
Yeah, dude. Tristan, the DP for that one, Tristan Savage, like he was just, we were on the same page with that project. We're like, we met up before then. We talked about, like, you know, I wanted it to look very much like, I wanted to tell the story visually, you know, like through the shots that he's presenting. Like, to me, that's really important, even though literally the subtext of the film has to be kind of, you're already looking for that within the, you know, the characters' dialogue and monologues. You're like, I don't want to depend solely on that. It needs to match the visuals. So he spent a lot of time giving me different ideas, and then his shots were just awesome. Like, I still think like one of the ones that sticks out is like the wide shot in the bedroom where the mom, or she's like looking at the ghost kid, or the real kid, the one that just came back from the dead. It's a wide shot, and I still see it in my head every time I think of that movie. So I think he did such a great job that it matched what I wanted to match with the performances, story, with you know, with Zio and I taking care of that way, and everything else kind of fell into place, man. Everything else fell into place. The score was a friend of ours did that, and I really like the last scenes of. Yeah, it's just I love that film. It took a long time. That was probably my first one that it took a long time to make these things.
No, you said you made it. It was a senior thesis, like filming it or writing it. Or writing, I guess would be right.
Well, both, because as a senior thesis, I went to Mount St. Mary's, and what they do
for grad school.
For grad school, they let me write and direct it, and so it was one of those things where I was like, I was in heaven. You know, it was a flagship year where they were doing
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, and they really were true to their word with giving me everything I needed from the school to be able to pull that off. And and it's cool, man. So that film took a while to make, but again, it's one of the things I'm most proud of. And
what he does, I try to stop him, but no one listens.
All right, we're back from watching the clip of Mia.
Yes.
Go ahead and talk about.
So 2 things before I get off of Mia is one of them is the fact that I really wish that it would have. I really wish that we didn't call it like, even though I just did at the beginning of this, like, oh, it's a retelling of La Llorona, because people have like this notion of what it should be, like a ghost story. But then again, you saw like the Llorona came out in the movie theaters last year, and it was a piece of crap, right? Because it's like you can't tell it's just a different way of telling a story, and we try to totally go a different route with it, and it's one of those things where, but that is the origins of what we want to tell. So I really wish that we didn't lean on that so much, like, oh, it's a retelling of La Llorona, it's a retelling of La Llorona, because people are like, this was an awesome film, but like the Llorona, really? It's like, yeah, it's like, how do you not see it? But the other thing was that,
Oh wow, yeah, it's totally obvious. You could tell. Like immediately after, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is La Llorona.
yeah, it's La Llorona, and it's like she gets, the other part of the story is that she keeps trying to bring her daughter's spirit back from, the river where she drowned her. But in our story, she keeps getting like different spirits of different kids, and it's like trying to like hold on to them as if they were her own. So that's where kind of her madness comes from. But anyway, but the other thing is, I wish that we would have been more prepared to really. We took that so serious, that the inception of the script, all the way to the post production, to the music, to everything, that we didn't really have a plan after that. Like, what do we do with this short film after it plays festivals? How do we get this into the right hands that'll help us maybe try to develop it as a feature? Because it's not all that easy when people are like, oh, just go to festivals and maybe somebody will see it. Or this and that. I've got a lot of fans from that movie. I didn't get that many people saying, hey man, let's make this into a film, So it's one of those things where that's been my whole life, which leads me to a greater point, which is one of the biggest things that I think, and you didn't ask me this, but I'm gonna. This is like a job interview. One of my weaknesses, not my weakness. It's a weird weakness, but it has to do with the fact that I've been so self-reliant and so independent, just honestly trying to make these films and trying to find my own voice and trying to tell the stories the way I want to tell them, that I've become. And as you've heard, like if you've been hearing this podcast, I've had a lot of friends that really believe in me, and a lot of friends who like gravitate toward me, and a lot of friends who would actually work for nothing almost, and just friends who want to see that story come to life. So I've had like the best path for a creator, because it's allowed me to really, really go out and do and create myself.
And have that freedom to do so.
Exactly. Now the thing that doesn't match that is what happens afterwards. It's like, cool, we got it up to here, we got it done, we got it made. Now how do we sell this? Like, now what do we do? It's like that other part of just like, that's why you need to build a network. That's why you need to build, like, find producers, find all these different people who are actually going to help you take it to that next step.
It's a what, catch-22 or something?
It's a what?
Like a catch-22?
Yeah, totally like a catch-22. So it's like you become so self-reliant that all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're alone at the end of the day. You're like, but I need somebody else to help me. It's like, wait, I didn't think of the next step. So that's my catch-22 with a lot of my projects. So that's why I think recently I've been focused more just on the writing of stuff. And when I met Michael, it was really great to have him, take that lead as a producer and help me create something, from a different standpoint. And it would have been different with Gone, but again, the festival thing just didn't pan out this year because of what's happening. So I might actually just throw it all online. Like the original plan was just throw it in so people could see it. But yeah.
Well, something that hasn't been shown online that I want to talk about is your other film, Any Other Day. Yeah. Go ahead and talk about that synopsis for that film, and where did you get the idea?
So Any Other Day is about a character who's waiting for a phone call from his...
Don't say from who.
Okay. So I'm going to have you start helping me pitch stuff. So it's about a character who's waiting for a phone call, and the world is ending, and it's the last day. It's literally the last day of his existence, and all he could do is sit by the phone waiting for it to ring. So that's what the story's about. It's really funny. We had really good characters. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, where did you? I mean, it's fucking funny. Where did you get the idea for it?
The idea for it. So it's really funny. That was like my attempt at writing a pilot. I'm like, we're gonna write.
Okay, so that's good. Have you seen Um, I should have looked it up before. The show with Daniel Radcliffe on TNT with He's an Angel or He's God. It felt like it was very existential comedy.
He's not God, right? But he's like.
Yeah, I think maybe he's not God because I think Steve Buscemi's God. But
Steve Buscemi's God. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those episodes. I
yeah,
don't know what
it
it's called.
reminded me. I can't remember the name of it either, but yeah, like an existential comedy. Definitely got that from this vibe. It was amazing.
Oh, right on, man. Right on. So it's funny because again, this is old. This film is old.
Really?
Yeah, dude. This film is about. Oh, it was shot right when I shot Kiko, which was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago, 4 years ago. That's when it was shot. I never did anything with it.
It looks great because you have such a large cast in there also, and the production quality is so well done.
Thank you.
It seems like it's a progression into the next thing. That's what I'm saying.
Right on. When I wrote it, it was so funny because I'm like, I wanted to like really jump into that idea of just writing a pilot and creating a series. We shot that for nothing, like zero money. Locations were given to us.
That's amazing.
Actors came down.
You have special effects in that movie.
The special effects guy, he actually worked his butt off on that one because even though there's a few, I'm like, dude, this needs to be right in order for it to happen. And I think he was able to like work on it so long because we really got stuck with it. We didn't know what to do with it. Like we made the film, we edited it down, he got the effects, the music was done. Oh, I like the music to it too. I'm a big fan of music. I was working on Kiko. Like, so the reason that film was made was to exercise my writing muscle, right, in comedy, because I really don't do comedy. But I do have a kind of sense of what I think is funny, and I'm like, maybe I can make this work. Let's see if other people think that. So I wrote this. I'm like, I'm gonna write a pilot. I wrote the thing, and then by the end of writing that pilot, I was really realistic and really honest with myself. I'm like, I just wrote a short film. Go ahead and write a pilot.
Well, the show we're referencing is called Miracle Workers. But go on. I just looked it up.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those episodes. So yeah, with this film, we went in there and the school, Mount St. Mary's again, had lent me the camera. They lent me the red, and we're like, "Who? We have a red." I told Matt, I go, "Matt, we're gonna shoot Kiko pretty soon, and I really want to shoot without any lights. I want us to be at that level where we could actually go and see how much we could push the camera, what we could do with it, So that project was really the first stepping stone. So, because I think that's the first thing we ever shot together, for us to really get to know each other, because we were about to go on this venture of shooting this other thing without any money, but with a lot of actors, a lot of locations, a lot of things that really needed to fall into place. And a lot of these locations were like, oh, you have 2 hours to shoot this whole thing. It's like, God, okay, we're not even gonna have time to set up lights, so let's really figure out how we get this working relationship going, because that's key. We have to be on the same page with that. So we shot this in a matter of it was a day. It was in a matter of a day. Frank, I went to school with Frank. That's where I know Frank Emmons from, the actor. Chloe Feynman, which is the actress in the film. I had worked with something with her. I directed her in another comedic series that another friend did, and I really adored her. And I'm like, she is so talented. Like when I direct her, I'm like, dude, she is awesome. And she's a white girl, and I already don't work with that many white girls. So I'm like, the one day I'm gonna find the right project, because all of my projects are Latinx or POC that I don't have to use for any white girl in my stories. But I'm like, oh, I finally could use Chloe. So I called her up. I'm like, hey, listen, man, you mind helping me out with this? And she's like, yeah, let's do it, man. That sounds awesome. That sounds fun. Cool. So she came down, we did it, and
which is awesome, because both of them have great comedic timing, and their chemistry together was really, really, really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you 100%. I thought that they really worked out. Again, I've seen Chloe go like from really big to really small, and it was one of those things where I'm like, she's got it. And Frank brought his own thing. Like I wasn't sure what Frank was gonna do, but I'm like, you have the script, you talk character, let's see what you bring. And he brought what he brought, and I really liked it. I thought it really merged well for both of them.
But so, yeah, I also have to say, I also love the other characters who don't really speak. Like the Latino character who's always high-fiving people. like he doesn't say much, but you get who he is completely just by how he acts. And then the other character who dresses in women's clothes because it's the last day of the world, might as well be fucking happy how you are. And it's just everything was just so funny. It was, and you got so much from so little, which is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. A quick shout out to Jesus again, or Jesus Guevara, which is also Ruben Guevara now. I think he's changed his name, but he's helped me on so many projects. He's been in so many of my projects, and he's a great actor. He's a really good actor. He's a high fiver in this one.
Shout out.
And he just came out straight up. He's like, I'm like, can you be in this? I would really love to see you in this. And we did a comedy before, many years before that. We did a comedy where I directed him, and I thought he's really funny. And I'm like, let's do it. I got a feeling this would be awesome for you and for me and to work together on. And yeah, he did it, and he came out and I loved it. Loved what he did. I thought he was hilarious. And then Dennis is an old friend. Dennis is an old friend from the real world who was always wanted. He's like, dude, whenever you have a need for a man in a dress, let me know. I'm like, Dennis, I wrote something just for you. This is perfect casting. So, but yeah, he's a really funny guy. He just has something funny about him where I'm like, he fits the characters perfectly. So even though like they all of those four worked really well together and as a whole piece. So yeah, so when the film was done, editing a comedy is something else because that movie probably was around 60 minutes long. So there were things left in the cutting floor. Zio, myself, and Matt were just like obsessing over how to make this like tighter and funnier and tighter and like this. So it's a different beast when you're editing comedy, and it was really fun to really have that project to work on and really see how things work and not feel rushed because again we weren't rushed. We didn't know what we were gonna do with it.
Which is so funny because this is a comedy, but like from what I'm gathering through your filmography and your aesthetic is that you do a lot of like horror or drama-esque type of stuff, but the backdrop is still the end of the world in this, but it's still a comedy, which is I find very hilarious and awesome with your aesthetic as a filmmaker overall.
No, thank you. And yeah, I feel like there's a lot of absolutely it's a comedy. It's I could never get away from that whole idea that there's somebody miserable out there, regardless of what the world status is or what the genre is. And I really like that. I really like what was brought to that, what Frank brought to that character, because I'm like, that's exactly who I envisioned that character to be when I wrote it. When I'm like, that's exactly who I wouldn't know how to say, hey, can you be this type of person in your performance? So he just found it, and luckily, hopefully, he found it within the writing of, in the script, because he seems to have brought it, and I really, really like that tone that the film has. Something we were going for tone-wise on that one, because it's really hard to like tell people, we're not going broad, we're not going big. I know this is a comedy, I know this is a ridiculous concept and idea, but we're going low-key, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? It's like, no, we're going for like the reality of it. Like the whole world is ridiculous, but like the people and the interactions are real, and that's the human aspect of it. I go, so we have to focus on that and not be like big. And so as a point of reference for both cinematography and story, I was looking at Punch Drunk Love, where I was very much, I'm like, that has a very specific tone, which I really liked, and I hope to be close to in this comedy, in the sense of just like that tone where it's like, okay, cool, it's its own weird low-key funny. It's not like, you're not gonna be like, but you're doing like, you know what I mean? So I like that film. So yeah, never released it because Kiko did the festival rounds like in a way that I've never had another film do them. And for the people that don't know what Kiko is, it's a film I wrote and directed, which you can find on Amazon Prime, I believe. You could literally go and watch it. And it's a really great film. Caesar, my friends in it, Brenda's in it. It's a film about a guy who works at a agency who's caught in a situation where he has to kind of give up one of his friends who he co-works with to the ICE, and then they deported her, and now he finds it within himself to have to like want to bring her back because she left a daughter here. Was after she got deported, he finds out that she has a daughter that's alone, and he's trying to reconnect them. So that's kind of what Kiko's about. Watch it on Prime. Shout out to Prime.
Shout out.
No, but
which we'll have the link somewhere around here, I'm sure.
Cool. So
in our
that
description.
that film was like kind of like again along the lines of where, as a filmmaker, what I saw myself directing and writing, and the trajectory of everything I have done up to that point was Kiko.
¿En qué la puedo ayudar?
Necesito cruzar la frontera.
Nada más. ¿Cuánto dinero tienes?
Aquí nada, pero llegando.
Llegando. No, hombre, eso no vale nada, mija. ¿Qué más tienes?
No tengo nada.
¿Estás segura? A ver, deja verte. Yo diría que tienes suficiente.
Memo.
Y nada más porque soy bien buena gente. Te voy a dejar trabajar en mi club una semana. Para que te hagas un dinerito.
So all of a sudden you have like this outlier of just like Any Other Day, which is like this random comedy, and you're like, that's really weird. You look at the IMDb, you're like, how is that right in the middle of Gone? So it was, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait till somebody's famous. I would always tell Jesus this, the high five, bro. Like, whenever you're famous, I'm gonna release all the stuff we've done, bro, because that's what I need. I'm just gonna hold everything, hoard it until one of you guys breaks out, and then boom. In this one, I don't know if you know, but Chloe Feynman, she's a cast member on SNL.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, that's awesome.
She was added last year in SNL, and I'm like, somebody wrote me like, "Hey, are you gonna release the movie now?" Because the movie's legitimately been done.
Which is crazy. I know, it's crazy you haven't released it. It's so good.
I was gonna release it at the beginning of the quarantine because I'm like, you know what? Right now is the right time for this kind of nonsense. I'm like,
totally. This is totally up the alley.
But then I thought of myself at home alone and just waiting next to the phone while the world around me is ending. And I'm like, holy crap! This is my life.
Art imitating life. Art imitating life.
I found that a real hard no. Like I'm just like, I can't. Like if I do that, we're gonna merge. I don't know what. I'll wake up in Frank's body next. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm like, no, this is not the right thing to do. Honestly, you're the first person I'm telling this to. This is honestly my way of thinking. Because I even told Matt, the DP, at the beginning of the quarantine, I'm like, hey, dude, I want to put it up online. And he's like, that's a great idea. Cool. And then I did it, and he asked me about a month later. He's like, what happened? I thought you were going to put it up. I'm like, no, I just didn't get around to it. The fact was that I'm like drunk, like I'm just like, no. Like, wow, art imitating life in the worst way possible.
Well, now I'm interested to see what you do after quarantine and COVID is potentially gets over. All the stuff that you're working on now, Jesus. Anyways, before we move on, I want to play a clip from Any Other Day.
The thing about not changing is that you get to see everything around you. I got to see Dennis start dressing like a girl. Candace banging, well, everyone. Steph coming in wearing bondage gear. Luckily, the boss was out on an end-of-the-world rave. How do I know this? Because he sent me a selfie while on Molly.
All right, so that was a clip from Any Other Day. So...
Or AKA Felix's life story.
Felix's life currently. Felix's
currently,
life.
yeah. I'm so prolific. I wrote that like 4 years ago, knowing that this was going to happen.
You were a man ahead of your time.
Ahead of my own time.
So talk about some of the hardest things you learned over the years of filmmaking. Like what things
How to release the film.
That's good for people out there who are trying to make it, or trying to be filmmakers, or in film school at the moment, or have friends who are like have an iPhone and like are filming their own little small projects. What are some like hurdles you have faced that you would like let someone know or warn them about? Like, hey, like I wish someone told me this when I was starting out that you learned. And if there's nothing, that's fine.
You know what? In all sincerity, I say everybody has their own route and everybody's doing their own thing, and just keep growing and just keep pushing yourself. You know, pushing yourself it in a way that, again, I don't regret the path that I went, which is making my own things. I mean, I'm so awesome that I have movies that I haven't released. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to say I regret it, but it's really interesting that
everything got you onto this podcast, so you're doing well for yourself. No,
you did. Made it. Made it. It's true though. It's like I feel like for some people it's just doing and going out there, but seeing that growth, seeing the ability to be like, okay, there's a point where I was this filmmaker, now I'm this filmmaker, and hopefully that happens for everybody who's out there just doing it and not necessarily studying it or going to it, because I did both. I did the school thing and I did the the hands-on thing, and I think both have prepared me in a way where now I'm ready. And before the podcast, we were talking about just kind of searching within oneself these last couple of months and really being able to hone in on what matters and what's important, and really find that bit of happiness or that joy, that thing that you didn't consider in the past, and really gravitate to what it is about that why has that been missing so long in your life, And in my case, I will say this: last weekend or this past weekend, were the NALEAP, the NALEAP summit, and I've heard this speaker talk many times. Her name is DMA. I don't know. Not sure, like, give her a shout out, but she doesn't need my shout out. But I heard her, and I know I've heard her in the past. I've heard her speak, and I was watching her through Zoom, through the talking about projects and talking about preparation, and talking about getting ready for everything. And holy crap, if I did not come out of that 1 hour session just like, I am ready, let's do this, I know exactly. She gave so much information that it was all brand new to me. But it wasn't. But I'm in a place where I hear it now. I'm finally in that place where I listened. And I'm finally in a place where I'm like, that's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I have filmed a lot of my own projects, and I have had that whatever need I had inside of just like, I need to make this on my own. I need to make these films that nobody's going to help me make. Was able to do that, pushed on. Now what's next? Now my career is next. Like, I'm trying to really, really make a living off of this. I am really trying to get to that step where I am well off and be comfortable with just directing something a year, as opposed to like just scrapping and scrapping and scrapping. So the preparation of it comes for everybody at a different time. It came, again, late bloomers. Shout out to
Mike.
So it's one of those things where it's just like, prepare yourself, take it serious if you want to make it a career. And it depends what it is you want to do with it. Like, going to film school so many years and being around filmmakers so many times, you hear the same things. Just like, make sure you want to make a career out of this, because it's not easy, and this and that and that. But the reality is, make sure you prepare yourself for it. Oh my God, I'm gonna quote DMA. She's gonna sue this podcast if I quote her. I don't know. But she was talking about the reality, and like being a filmmaker as a dream, and being a filmmaker in reality. She goes, you have to focus on the reality, because reality prepares you. Dreams just happen. Dreams they fizz away. The reality of it is, like, you have to work and you have to be prepared. You have to make sure you know what you're doing and how you're going to do it, and have the overall plan, which is something that, again, up until this day, I could literally say that with any other day. I don't have a plan for it. I was able to write it. I was able to shoot it. I was able to make a cool little film. I was able to show it to my friends. Why wasn't I able to release it? Not because I owe anybody money, not because I can't, not because, other than just because I didn't have, I still don't have a plan for it. Unless we're going to release it in yours. Are we going to release it as a special movie in your podcast?
I could. It could be on our website if you want.
There you go. I mean, yeah, because that's the thing I lack. It's like lacking that idea of just like, where do we go from here? And not seeing, kind of having that short-sightedness of just like, it's just the doing that's going to get us there. It's just the doing that somebody's going to notice one day and be like, yes. No, man, it's having the full-on plan and knowing where you want to take your career, knowing where you want to take yourself as a filmmaker, knowing where you want your films to go. So that's the one thing I wish somebody had told me.
Well, that's great. You know what? Because I do hear like a lot, we've done a lot of these interviews before, And a lot of the people have talked about like, oh, really focus on post-production, because a lot of people put so much effort on production, on principal photography, that they forget that there's still a time after that they still need to work on the film. But now that you're talking about it, there's a whole nother aspect to even after the film is done that you need to think about as well, which is great that you're talking about that, because not many people even talk about what to do next. So it's amazing that you are mentioning that as well.
I think it's helped me these last couple months, last year actually. Last year I produced my first solely like produced thing, where I've never just been a producer on a film. It's a short film called Lecciones de mi Madre, which we were planning on doing the festival circuit. That was the plan for it, but then this whole thing happened. But we just finished it up on in February, so it was just like it just coincided with bad timing. But it's Aurora Jimenez is the writer director of it. And it was taking her on and really trying to bring not only my knowledge of film and my expertise and my know-how, but just like really seeing overall what we need to do for the whole project. Like bringing that idea of what happens after. What do we do when we're done with the film? Because I know my strengths. I know I could get it done. If I say I'm going to make a movie, I'm going to make a movie. I know it. Be it whatever money I have, be it whatever I don't. What I don't have is that other part of it, because I haven't stretched that muscle yet. So right now as a producer, I think that's where I'm trying to stretch that muscle, is like really saying, okay, where are we going to take this to? What is our audience? Where are we going to go? Looking at it from the lifespan of after the whole thing is said and done packaged, where do we want this package to go? Who do we want to see it? So I think that's the producer side of me is letting all of that out right now. And I just sorry?
Well, no, which leads me to my next question is like, so writing, directing, you got your foot wet in producing. Is there another aspect of filmmaking that you are very interested in doing?
I think just producing, really.
Well, because I know one thing that you want to do that we talked about beforehand, and you have some experience, is acting and voice acting, because you worked on animated series, The Mind of LARS, Lazarus, that you can find on YouTube. Do you want to talk about that experience working on being a voice actor?
I'll talk really fast. Quick shout out to Jim Lujan. You know who Jim Lujan is? And I'm talking to you, Dan. I'm talking to everybody at Dan's fans and everybody out there. If you guys know who Jim Lujan is, look him up. He's amazing. He's another one of these artists.
The animation's great.
Yeah, he's an animator. He's a writer-director. When I met him, he was still doing like his own voices for every character. It's like he does his own music. The music in this Lars Lazarus blows my mind. I love it. Did you hear some of it?
Yeah, it's
Isn't
great.
It great? It's just like, what? How's he doing all of this on his own? And again, he's cut from the same cloth as I am, like same cloth as I am, I should say. Where it's like he's doing his own thing. He doesn't depend on anybody. He has an outlet. His outlet is YouTube. This man and he's gotten so fast at doing animations and this is a guy who's like really taking it to the next level. The last thing he worked on before this was with Bill Plimpton, so this is like an Oscar-winning, very well-renowned, cartoonist that he co-wrote and directed something with. And after that trip, he's like, now I'm going to go back and do my own thing again. So it's like really cool to know people like that and to have people like that within my inner circle that we're trying to really do it on our own. But at the same time, it's like, don't close that door when it starts to open wide. And Jim's case, like he's been in I've asked him to be in some of my movies. He's actually been in some of my movies, little bit parts here and there. And when in hopes that he would ask me to be in one of his. I'm like, if I get him in this movie, maybe he'll ask me, hey, can you be a voice? And
yeah, it worked. You were a voice.
I've known this man for like 10 years almost. And it was really funny because he had told me, it's really cool to see his process. Like he was talking about the character before that. So Jim is like, you know what? I haven't talked to Jim. So this is how Jim works. Had a conversation with him, I think January, about this and about other projects that we might do together. And he's like, I'm going to write this character around you. He goes, I think you would be perfect for this. I'm like, cool. So what are we thinking about? Like, is he a side character? He's like, he's the main character. He's the lead character. Cool. Calls me like 2 weeks later. All right. So you become a supporting character. And this, I'm like, no problem. I know what to do. It was cool. Boom. Hey, I'm going to email you a page of lines that I need you to do for me. I'm like, what the fuck? What's the story, bro? What is happening right now? So it was one of those things like, oh, this is what's happening, this is that. Just give me these lines in a voice that you want to do, that you want to explore. I'm like, this is hard. Because I'm like, I'm so used to like, you're used to seeing like, well, you're gonna have the director sitting in front of you and you're gonna have like millions of takes and this and that. And all you have is like yourself like recording these lines from Jim, and you're like trying to make Jim happy without knowing what the hell Jim wants. I hope I don't ruin this, but I think within himself he knows exactly what he's gonna get and that's why it took him 9 years to see my talent.
9 years. It was a slow burn, but it happened. Can you do the voice for us?
Oh no. So here's the other thing, and I will speak directly to Jim on this one because I haven't talked to Jim since the last time we recorded. So I had my first that first episode that hopefully you could link because that's awesome. I really like that episode. I didn't do any lines until probably like a month later or 3 weeks later. He's like, hey, these are the next lines that you're gonna do. Can you do them? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But then I'm like, how did I get to that voice? Like, I don't remember how to do that voice, you know? So there I am, like, listening to these things, trying to do the voice, and I'm like, I hope it matches, like, so much insecurity. That's why I can't do the acting thing, man. There's, like, I'm a ball of insecurity, and it's a mess.
What do you think actors are? Actors are balls of insecurities.
There's no end reward. I know the actors go through that process and find it somewhat rewarding at the end, or at least the process of it. But in my case, there's no reward. I'm like, I feel like crap the whole way through. And this is like, until I'm watching, I'm like, that kind of sounds like it. I don't know. It was the weirdest experience, but I did base it off of Nacho Libre. And do you remember in Casablanca, I think he was like the waiter. He was a waiter in Casablanca. He goes, if I very good, I give you a kiss. Like he's a really weird character that just comes out of the movie. I'm like, I get him and Nacho Libre and just combine them. That's how I'll do this voice for this character. And then that's hopefully what came out.
I honestly took me a while to realize who you were in the show. I was like,
that is really satisfying to hear, actually, because again, to me, I'm like, oh, great, this just sounds like me doing stupid voice.
No, because you sent me the link and I watched it, and then when it went to the credits, it says voices, and I saw your name, and I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't hear him. So I watched it the second time, and I was like, is he the fucking detective? What? That's crazy.
Detective Santiago. So Jim's a fan of my feature film, the feature film that I directed many years ago called Santiago. So that's why my name is Santiago in his film. Detective Santiago.
That's awesome. And you had an acting experience that you talked about before the podcast. If you don't want to talk about it, we could.
Well, I think I pretty much hinted upon the fact that it was acting is a thing I think I could do really well if you took out all the hard parts out of it. It's one of those things where it's like
like reality TV.
Oh God! You don't consider them actors, do you? Right? No. So, yeah. Again, if in Jim's projects where I'm like left to my own vices, I'm a mess. I can only imagine if I'm left to like in front of somebody doing it. Like what a horror show that would feel like. Before we get off, go watch Jim Luhan's movies. They're amazing. They're all on YouTube because he has 100 animations. That being said, the only acting thing I actually took serious was for a friend of mine in the master's program. He asked me to be in something, and it was just a little bit raw, but I had some lines, and I think, it was just a very, very tough experience just to really give myself into like just relaxing and being this character who I wanted to be. And it was just like I was a nervous wreck up until like, all right, you're needed on set, let's go, let's do this. Did my thing, felt insecure the whole time, felt freaking naked. Mind you, it was like not even a very hard role. It was like I don't know, I could tell you his story because it's a story, but my character was like this guy who was coming in to fix a VR chip, like almost like a cable guy, right? But for this high-tech like girlfriend that he had that was more virtual reality than anything else. Anyway, that was who my character was. So it's very simple lines of just like saying, well, you could get this, you could get that. It's almost like a salesman type thing. bit like nuanced, not just like, hey, sell this. So it just had to do with, you know, just like, well, the idea is that, you know, for me, the subtlety of acting, for me, subtlety is the best thing an actor could bring to a role. So I always kind of try to go for that whenever somebody asks me to do something. So I'm very grounded, and that makes you feel like, was that not enough? You know, I could definitely never be a theater actor because I would never, ever know. But
no, speaking of which, so I'm going to bring it up. We both did a reading recently together for a short play, and you were really good in it. So
thanks, man.
So don't knock yourself.
That's because subtlety. That's because I was kind of playing to you guys. I wasn't like on a stage.
But technically it's a play, so it's meant for a stage, and you did a good job. So
yeah. It was a fun play. Shout out to Caesar. That was a really fun play.
Shout out to Caesar.
That was very cool. So yeah, so that horror show of that, I don't think my buddy knows like how much like of a freak I was at like during that production, during that filming of his short film. But at the end, I did get kudos from the DP. He came up to me. He's like, "Hey man, like what
did
else
he give you a high five?" No,
he actually said, "What else are you in?" I'm like, "What?"
Oh really?
Yeah. He goes, "Dude, you're really natural, man. That was pretty good." He goes, what else have you done? I'm like, "Oh, this is it. I'm just doing it for him." I'm like, "I'm not an actor, no." So I just like backed up and I freaked out and walked out of the room. I think Zia was with me at the time. She was like really awesome to like have there and be like, "You're all right, dude. You did really good. You did really," but it doesn't matter who tells you did good because I didn't believe it. So I'm like, I'll just wait till I see this freaking movie. Cut to the next day, right? Like I call my buddy. I'm like, "How's it going?" He goes, "The sound guy doesn't have the sound files." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "The sound files are missing." Like, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yes, he can't find them. F this guy." We're like, it's like the whole horror. Like, wait, are you? So cut to a month later, he's showing his like he's showing the movie in class, but no sound because there's no sound. So he never released it. He never did any. I don't think he did anything because I'm like, you could just do ADR. He goes, F ADR, like that's not what it's about. And that. And I totally agree. And actually, yeah, I agree with no.
But that was your one film acting project. Now erased into oblivion.
See why the world is not ready for me as an actor. Like the world, just like I told you about you and that, like these different corners of the world just it just butts into my life. The world cares not for me. It's like, no, you know what you need, Felix?
And the world it doesn't want you to release any other day either because it's so close to your life right now.
Dude, it's too much. It's too much. So, but I have a huge respect for actors, and I really like the actor-director relationship that I've been able to form with the people that I've worked with, and talented actors, and you know, coming from a place where I would work with, you know, non-actor actors at first, and really understanding, okay, if I could get a performance out of somebody who's never acted before, like what is it going to be like when I work with somebody who's super talented, you know, somebody who's bringing their A game. And Mia, and you know, in her case, it was just one of those things where I'm like, man, if she's bringing me so much already, like just to kind of hone in on who we want this character to be. It's going to be an amazing project and a process, I should say, an amazing process to work with somebody like that. And it has informed me, and it has definitely given me, you know, a different amount of love and respect for actors that I thought I already had instilled within me, but it wasn't in seeing their process. I will say this in the Mia shoot. There was this was a pickup day. She was doing this thing, and I just told her this last year. I think she didn't know this, that I was looking at some footage for something a couple years ago, and she was doing this thing where we had to have her like hysterical and crying and just like giving her all. And I had done so many takes, and I had done so many times, like I was having my total Kubrick moment, right? Like it was like the framing was like this, and she was just like going hyperventilating and doing this and that. So the last time when she did it, where I thought like, this is it, we got it. I'm like, cut. She like went and like literally fell over, like just like, she just gave it so much that she was just done.
Wow.
Done. And
committed.
Yeah, man. And that was really special. Again, and it's because, you know, and I know we're talking about a little moment and a little thing, but again, that totally informs and validates the fact that you see how, every one of these little intricate pieces makes a film what it is. And from the actor's perspective, from the directing perspective, from the DP perspective, and if everybody's giving their all for this thing that they completely believe in, I mean, there's no more rewarding thing. I don't mind that, that me is not a feature. I don't mind that people haven't seen Any Other Day. I don't mind that Gone didn't get its proper festival run. It's like knowing that we made that is really rewarding to me, knowing that whatever happens to it after the life of the film is already a win for me. I come into the project thinking like, if people loved and cared about this project to make it to this point, to make it a reality, because it lives, it lives somewhere. And
will always live somewhere.
It will always live somewhere. Yeah. Damn, I'm gonna go ask that guy to do the ADR in that movie, because I was in that movie.
It's never too late, right? or better late than never for
better late than never
for late bloomers.
Late bloomers.
All right, Felix, talk about some of your favorite movies. What films inspire you? What films give you life? What films really speak to your soul?
You know what? It's like I'm one of those people who, I have my standbys. Like my favorite films are, I think I mentioned them already. Bicycle Thieves, On the Waterfront, Do the Right Thing. There's like that list. Godfather 2. There's that list of just those movies that always kind of are your go-to. The kinds that people are like, ooh, oh. But then there's like my sub list, which is probably would inform me more as a filmmaker. Honestly, growing up, like Repo Man. I would watch Repo Man obsessively. I love Repo Man.
The one with Jude Law?
How dare you? You have a podcast on film? No, the one with what? Okay.
The musical? I'm kidding. It was
no, check this out. I was gonna say the one with, and then I heard myself. I'm like, that sounds worse. I was gonna be like, no, the one with Emilio Estevez. Oh wait, that doesn't sound better. But it was Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton. Yeah.
So, and Alex Cox, I believe, directed it. That movie I saw a lot, and I really liked what they did in that film, and that was such an inspiration. That's something wild. American Werewolf in London. There's that sub list, and I think that sub list, like from American Werewolf in London, it's like you start to realize like what it is about those films that you like so much. As far as my process of growing as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, and for me, that movie. What is it? American Werewolf in London, which I've seen a million times, has always allowed me to really, really obsess over it because of that relationship that the friends have at the beginning of the movie, like the first 10 minutes that they're together. And I'm like, man, I care so much about David and his buddy in the beginning of the movie. Like they did something right. They wrote that right. The performances were dead on. It was something about that movie where the humor right up front allowed us access into who the characters are and allowed us to become friendly with them and become, part of their little, duo thing going along in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, oh, that's like, I want to write like that. I want to be able to bring an audience into my story or care about my characters that fast. So it's like I'm taking all these little things from different movies that I've seen throughout my life. I don't know what I'm taking from Repo Man. I think Repo Man is the chaos of it. I just love it. It's just a fun movie. And then the other ones are the ones that are like the standards. Like I said, Godfather 2, On the Waterfront. Those inform me and in my voice and what matters to me, what I think about society, what I think about, the human struggle, what I think about how the world could beat you down, but, you have to get up and keep going, and you really have to take a stand for things that matter. And as filmmakers, I think that's what hopefully I'm doing with every project I write, is like taking a stand to a certain degree and showing you what I feel needs to change, what I feel needs to be, or attention needs to be brought to, regardless of the genre, regardless of what it is. So, in recent years, somebody asked me, probably like last year, they're like, so what's the last favorite movie? I'm like, Children of Men? They're like, bro, that's like 5 years old. That's like over 5 years old. I'm like, oh.
That's over 5 years old now, but yeah. It's a good movie, though.
It's a good movie, and that's like, as an overall movie, you're like, I could watch that a billion times, The last
I mean,
movie that
I mean,
honestly said-
Alfonso, that's just a beautiful directed film too.
yeah. But as you see, like my criterions back there, I'm a huge fan of criterions. I like studying films. I like studying films from everywhere. So, but that was a total just moment where I'm like, just look at my criterions. It was like, I mean, you really realize there was no reason for me to say that. I just feel like I've been talking about American Werewolf in London to a point where people were like, what? I'm like, no, I'm a real filmmaker, guys. I like.
Look at my collection of DVDs behind me.
I have them separated. But the last thing I think that really impacted me, I think TV is impacting me more nowadays. But in film, I think Moonlight. Moonlight is definitely like the last favorite movie I would say that I felt like, oh man, I'm glad.
That was an experience.
That was an experience. That totally was an experience. Everything about it. I was in Chicago at the time when we went to see that at the theater, and it was just, I could tell. It's really cool because I've seen so many movies and so many revivals and so many things that it's like hard for me to remember. Like sometimes I'll be like, like, did I see this in the theater? And the person next to me is like, yeah, you saw it with me. I'm like, oh, what? Huh? So, but Moonlight is like, that's how I know it's a special movie because I remember everything about that. It was like theater experience at its maximum. Like I just remember everything about it. I remember walking in. I remember getting the ticket. I remember the girl behind the counter. I remember sitting down. I remember Zio getting up to go get popcorn and missing the Get Out trailer, which was the first time I ever seen the Get Out trailer. And like, just like, whoa, this is an experience of like all inclusive. It's just even the trailers are amazing. Holy crap! So it was. I remember seeing the movie and just like thinking when the movie first started, I'm like thinking, oh, this is cool. You know how it starts, like almost like something. Like I would say, like that I would do, like low budget, just the camera's there, and he's kind of spinning it around, and
yeah.
Okay, cool. But then it slowly starts to grow, and it just starts to just grab you and bring you in to the point where you're at the beach with the water, and I'm just like literally crying because the score, the visual, the cinematography, the performance, the direction just made that moment so special for me, and just made me absolutely adore everything about that film. The scene where the other thing that I remember the most watching that movie is seeing Zio was so giddy when the teenager was gonna, like the first kiss that was like at the beach.
At the beach, yeah.
Oh my god, she was like so giddy and it's really interesting to see, like, yeah, we don't see that enough in film where it's like it gets you excited. You're like, oh my god, they're gonna do it, you know? It's like, it's weird, but it was such an experience, and it was a lovely experience. And yeah, I like that movie. I just saw that for Father's Day. My Father's Day movies were. It's a weird one. It was Moonlight, Godfather. It was Moonlight, Godfather, and Black Panther. Those are my 3 Father's Day movies. And that's why I don't have kids.
You do. You have one kid, a cat. That's basically.
You saw him, right? He's back there somewhere.
Yes.
Right now. He was in. I started with Black Panther. I knew that would get him in. And then Godfather, he was like, I'm gonna go take a nap. He came back out for Moonlight. He was good. But yeah, so it's different. Yeah, I have many. I like all films, and yeah, Abbas Kiarostami, I'm a huge fan of his. So it's like, yeah, we could really, really honestly just talk about film and filmmaking forever. Like, I won't shut up. You know, during quarantine, what I saw that really, like at the beginning, that first month, which is a movie I really adore. I wouldn't call it a favorite, but I really adore this film. Oh my God, what is it? The one with Melissa McCarthy, Pardon? Sorry.
Oh, the one that she was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. What is it, Pardon?
Forgive Me.
Please forgive me. Right? Please forgive me?
I think that's the one. I'm looking it up right now. But yes, go ahead. Continue talking about it.
Yeah, that movie, man. Just overall, just seeing like the pathos, seeing like the subtlety and the care that somebody has with something. It doesn't matter in what format it is, what kind of movie it is, what type of genre it is. If you feel like, I'm the kind of guy that if you feel that somebody cared for that moment so much, it comes across in film, you know, be it whatever it is. I mean, even at the end of a freaking Judd Apatow.
It's called Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Can You Ever Forgive Me? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Lovely film. Lovely film. And it like, you can see the care. You know, you could feel the care. You could see it and feel it. You could feel the care for that movie. And in the time where I was just alone and feeling like at my worst, it's like you have all these characters out there that make you feel like you're not, and it's going to be good and you're okay, and everything happens for a reason. And I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. I just started talking about that movie because that's the last thing that I've rewatched a lot recently. That I'm like, oh, I'm just watching it again. And I don't know if any people like. I recommended a couple friends that never heard of it. I'm like, how?
Really? She was nominated for an Oscar. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Felix, if someone wanted to watch your work, or do you want to promote any social media or website or anything, now is the time to do so. Would be awesome.
Films.
Huh?
No, I'm just gonna keep talking about films. I'm gonna take my time to get my info out and just talk about films. Hey, really fast. I want to say something because I don't know if this is still gonna be. We might go into a different quarantine now. So in case we go into quarantine again, I did want to mention I saw this. There's a series called Mythic Quest. Ravens. The guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He did a spin-off
on Apple TV.
I'm sorry to say, mediocre show. It's like, it's okay. It's not that funny. But there's an episode in there, man, that honestly, watch it. Have you seen it?
I've seen the first 4 or 5 episodes, yeah.
Did you? Oh, so that's funny. You didn't get to episode 5, which is Dark Quiet Death.
Oh, no, I haven't. So I must have got up to episode 4.
Watch 5. One of the best things on TV this year. One of the best things on TV this year, for real. I'm not even joking. It was phenomenal, and the care in that. So it's. I know you're thinking it's none of the characters that are in episode 1 through 4 are in it, which is funny.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's its own short little thing. It's its own little movie. It's its own little piece of beauty, man. It's really good. The heart is right there. Whoever wrote that and directed that had that in their heart for so long, you know, that you could just feel it. Beautiful.
That's like that reminds me of like Breaking Bad, the episode that Ryan Johnson did with the fly. Do you watch Breaking Bad? Which is like a totally its own episode. It doesn't really go with any of the rest of the season or of the series in itself. It was just the one episode that was made by Ryan Johnson for Breaking Bad fans, and it was about a fly in the lab. That was the premise. Yeah. And it was so like, yeah. Okay, cool. So I love shit like that. So yeah.
Dude, it's really good. It's really good. And TV and to be fair, so you like the show because I actually watched the whole thing just for that episode because I heard that episode was good. That they have their quarantine episode, which is their final episode.
Oh really?
Dude, one of the best. Like it's literally their funniest episode, and it's just it is well done.
Yeah, I thought it was funny and I enjoyed it, but there's so much shit to watch on TV.
So much.
And even stuff that's been out for a while that I've been meaning to get to. So I'll have to jump back and watch it. Thanks for the recommendation.
For sure. And that's it. I haven't watched any other TV. I only watched that because of that episode. I heard about it and I shared it with a couple of people and they're like, whoa. I'm like, right? So it's nice because like nobody's ever heard of the show and like I'm surprised you had seen 1 through 4. Good for you. But then again, you watch a bunch of stuff, right?
I do watch a bunch of stuff. Bunch of stuff. Like, I'm watching Animal Kingdom right now from TNT on Amazon Prime.
Oh, nice.
So. How is it? It's a pretty good show. It's a pretty good show. I recommend it. Right it's based on a movie also, which is an Australian movie. So
I have the movie,
that's set in America. Oceanside. But anyways, yeah, Felix, so where can people find your work, or do you have a website to promote, or how can people get in touch to get in contact, or like however, if people watch this and they like your work, where can they contact you?
Hit me up through, well, I can't say Facebook or social media because I am going to commit to actually getting on that soon. There was a time when I was a vegetarian and I wanted to start eating meat again, but like it no longer had to do with principles. It had to do with like, damn, I haven't ate meat for years. I can't like eat meat now. Like it just felt wrong because it happens naturally. So I think the same thing with Facebook and Instagram. Like you could message me. Oh, message me through Facebook. Can I see messages? Anyway, I don't know. But find me there and add me. And one day that I go back on, I will definitely
respond.
Or just shoot me an email. It's my name at gmail.com or musicglobal.net or my website. I have a website with my name.
Yes. What's the website?
It's my name, felixmartiz.com.
.com. Okay.
Yeah, and you can find a lot of my stuff there, a lot of my clips, and there's ways of reaching me and we'll probably put any other day through your podcast link, so people could see it. And yeah, if people see it, let me know what you think.
Yeah, and comment, let us know. We'll let Felix know.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, that's how you reach me. Otherwise, hit up Dan. Everybody call Dan if you want to reach me. And
I do have your contact info, so yes.
You do. But yeah, I want to help anybody, man. I totally believe in this world and paying it forward, and honestly helping out anybody that wants, anybody that wants, I'm there for, anybody, that should rephrase that, anybody that needs, not that wants, anybody that needs to do it, because I've come across both, and people that need to do it, I could help them get it done. People that want to do it, it's 50-50,
Yeah.
Just don't want to put the work in, and it's like, why am I going to bother? But I am more than happy to help anybody that honestly has that need to tell a story, because
Which would be great, because so like if someone has like a script that they're working on, they want some feedback, would that be something you're interested in helping out with?
I could, what I've done recently. So I've been script doctored a lot in these last couple of years. But when it's somebody that just honestly, sincerely can't pay me or just needs help, this is what I tell them: give me your first act. I'll read the first act. I will read the first act, and I'll know from that first act if it's set up right, if it's what's going on, and help them out in that way. But yeah. But again, if I feel like it's like, I'm going to be brutally honest, especially if I'm doing it as a favor. I'm going to be like, dude, stop writing. Forget it. Just quit. Stop it. This is not for you. It's not fun. Being a filmmaker is not the best.
Woo, you did not do that to me when you read my first web series script. So woo, thank you.
There's something there. Dan. And and right now, like I said, I'm producing. So if anybody wants to like get a little information, I've had people reach out to me just for information, like how do I go about this? How do I go about that? And I could definitely point to the right direction of what you need to do and where you need to go. So, yeah, it's a community, man. It's a community, and we make it of it what we make of it. So we should all help each other out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Felix, for being on the show today, man. It's been such a pleasure to talk movies and get to know a little bit more about you in the movie Zeitgeist. So thanks.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I appreciate the time, and thank you for letting me ramble on. I know this is a long one.
Hey, it's all good. Great information. So everyone, please go check out Felix and check out his website. Get in contact with him if you can. It'd be awesome. And watch his films. They're really, really good. I promise you will enjoy them. So again, I'm Dan the Man Muñoz, host of Movie Menu Interviews. We'll be back with our new episode next week. Until then, make sure to subscribe to our podcast at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We are there. Also, visit our website at moviemenupodcast.com. And again, that's moviemenupodcast with an S.com. We are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We are everywhere. There's no reason why you are not subscribed or listening to us or sharing, comment, liking, reviewing, rating all of us. And we hope you enjoy the content. Until next time, guys, thank you and goodbye.